The crystal spires of Station Alpha stretched toward the infinite cosmos, their transparent surfaces refracting the light of twin nebulae into cascading rainbows across the Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from over 1,000 worlds filled the tiered seating, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic civilization. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others remained suspended in liquid chambers, while many sat in specially designed ergonomic seats that accommodated their unique physiologies. High Commander Zix of the Arctians glided to the central platform, their bioluminescent scales shifting from deep blue to confident gold. The advanced species was known throughout the galaxy for their predictive models and analytical prowess, making their assessment of emerging civilizations a highlight of the millennial gathering. Esteemed members of the Council, Zix began, their translator converting complex harmonic tones into galactic standard. We come to the final subject of our survey. Species 7294b, self-designated as humans from the planet Earth. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing images of Earth's cities, vehicles, and primitive space stations. Several council members shifted in their seats, showing signs of disinterest across their varied physiologies. The quantum lords of Rigel dimmed their photonic matrices, while the crystalline minds of Vega directed their attention to other computational tasks. As you can observe, Zix continued, bringing up a chart of technological progression. These beings still rely primarily on chemical rockets for space travel. Their energy production remains largely dependent on fossil fuels, though they've begun rudimentary exploitation of solar and nuclear power. The High Commander manipulated the display with practiced gestures, highlighting various human activities. They've managed to establish a small base on their singular moon and maintain a primitive orbital station. Their most advanced computers still operate on binary systems, and their understanding of quantum mechanics remains theoretical at best. A ripple of amusement passed through the assembly. The methane swimmers of Europa released bubbles of mirth, while the Silicon Collective clicked their crystalline appendages in what passed for laughter among their kind. However, Zix added, bringing up new data streams, we've noted some unusual patterns in their development. Their rate of technological advancement shows irregular spikes, and their approach to problem-solving often defies our predictive models. The presentation shifted to show human achievements in art, music, and literature. They display remarkable creativity and adaptability. While this might suggest potential for future development, our models indicate they are at least 3 centuries from achieving faster-than-light travel and 5 centuries from meeting the minimum requirements for galactic citizenship. Suddenly, every sensor in Station Alpha activated simultaneously. Warning harmonics reverberated through the crystal architecture as emergency protocols engaged automatically. The holographic displays flickered and transformed, showing real-time sensor data that caused even the most composed council members to express alarm in their various ways. Impossible, Zix whispered, their scales shifting to a startled white. The energy readings, they're off every known scale. The space before Station Alpha began to distort, reality itself seeming to bend and fold. The station's advanced shields activated automatically, their golden barrier surrounding the structure in preparation for an unknown threat. Council members who had moments ago been drowsing in boredom now pressed forward, their attention fully captured by the unprecedented event unfolding before them. Multiple dimensions are being affected, announced the station's artificial intelligence, its voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Detecting controlled manipulation of space-time fabric. Source: unknown. Scale: unprecedented. Threat assessment: calculating. A High Commander stood frozen on the presentation platform, their carefully prepared report forgotten as the impossible happened before their eyes. In the space where empty void had been moments before, something massive was taking form, its very presence challenging everything the galaxy's finest minds thought they knew about physics, space travel, and the limitations of technology. The assembly hall fell into complete silence as the object fully materialized, its size dwarfing Station Alpha itself. No one spoke, no one moved. They could only watch as first contact with a new species was about to happen in a way none of them had ever anticipated or thought possible. The vessel that emerged from the spatial distortion defied conventional understanding. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent metal that seemed to drink in starlight and reflected back in impossible colors. The ship's design spoke of both artistry and function. Smooth curves blended seamlessly with angular sections that appeared to fold through dimensions that shouldn't exist. "Energy signatures are stable," announced the station's AI, its tone carrying a note of what almost sounded like wonder. Detecting no radiation leakage or structural instabilities. The vessel appears to be perfectly constructed. High Commander Zix's scales rippled with shades of uncertainty as they study the readings flooding their neural interface. The ship was larger than any vessel in the known galaxy, yet it generated no gravitational distortion. It should have been impossible for something of that size to maintain structural integrity, let alone the perfect harmony of systems their sensors detected. "Incoming transmission," the station AI declared. "Multiple frequencies, all known galactic communication protocols, and several unknown." The Grand Assembly Hall's acoustic field hummed to life. The voice that filled the chamber was clear and carried a warmth that somehow managed to feel welcoming to every species present, regardless of their auditory perception methods. "Greetings, Station Alpha and assembled representatives of the Galactic Council. This is the Earth vessel Star Weaver requesting permission to dock. We come in peace and friendship." The quantum lords of Rigel flared their photonic matrices in shock. The crystalline minds of Vega vibrated at frequencies indicating extreme surprise. Even the usually stoic methane swimmers released streams of agitated bubbles into their environmental chambers. High Commander Zix struggled to maintain composure as they responded, their translator working overtime to maintain clarity. "This is impossible. Our data shows Earth lacks the technological capability for interstellar travel, let alone dimensional engineering of this magnitude." A gentle laugh echoed through the chamber. "Your data, High Commander, shows exactly what we wanted it to show. Humanity has been observing the galaxy for quite some time. We felt it prudent to wait until we were ready before making our presence known." The ship's outer hull shifted, sections moving with liquid grace to reveal docking apparatus that perfectly matched Station Alpha's specifications. The station's AI confirmed what seemed inconceivable. The vessel's systems were seamlessly interfacing with their own, as if they had been designed in tandem. "We request permission to send a diplomatic delegation," the voice continued. "Our ambassadors are prepared with environmental adaptation modules to accommodate all Council species comfort requirements." The Council members erupted in overlapping discussions, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of debate. The Silicon Collective's crystalline clicking mixed with the harmonic resonances of the Quantum Lords and the subsonic rumbles of the larger species. First contact protocols existed, of course, but they had been designed for meeting primitive civilizations, not encountering a species that had somehow hidden its true capabilities from the entire galaxy. The rules were being rewritten in real time. A delegation of temporal observers, usually silent during council proceedings, suddenly activated their communication arrays. "We detect no temporal anomalies," they announced. "This advancement appears to have occurred within normal space-time progression. We simply missed it." The Star Weaver hung in space, patient and majestic, as the council scrambled to adapt to this paradigm-shifting moment. Its hull continued to play with light in ways that made even the most advanced optical scientists among the assembly question their understanding of physics. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of debate but lasted only moments, High Commander Zix spoke again, their scales now showing patterns of formal diplomatic engagement. "Permission to dock granted, Earth vessel Star Weaver. The Galactic Council welcomes humanity's representatives." As the massive ship began its graceful approach to the docking terminal, one thing became crystal clear to every being present. The galaxy as they knew it was about to change forever. The species they had dismissed as primitive had just demonstrated mastery of technologies most had thought impossible, and this, they all suspected, was only the beginning. The docking port cycled open with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. The assembled council members waited with barely contained anticipation as the airlock's inner doors began to part. Some had expected to see humans in bulky environmental suits, yet what emerged left them speechless once again. Captain Sarah Chen stepped through the doorway wearing what appeared to be ordinary formal attire. A midnight blue uniform that shifted like liquid starlight with each movement. Behind her, 6 other humans followed, each carrying what appeared to be simple metallic cases that somehow demanded attention from every scientific instrument in the chamber. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, Captain Chen began, her voice carrying naturally to each species in their preferred method of communication. Earth thanks you for your welcome. We bring greetings and gifts from humanity. High Commander Zix's scales flickered between shades of diplomatic protocol and pure scientific curiosity. Your method of communication. You're not using any known translation technology. A subtle smile crossed the captain's face. The technology is called the Universal Resonance Matrix. It draws from our studies of consciousness itself, allowing direct concept-to-concept communication across species barriers. Rather than translating words, it translates understanding. The human delegation moved forward, each member approaching different species groups with perfect protocol knowledge. Their clothing, what had appeared as simple uniforms, adapted seamlessly to various environmental conditions. When one delegate entered the methane chamber to greet the Europa representatives, their uniform transformed into an environmental seal without any visible technology activation. Impossible, whispered one of the quantum lords, their photonic matrix pulsing with confusion. Your energy signatures are barely registering, yet you're performing matter manipulation at the quantum level. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, the delegation's chief scientist, opened one of the metallic cases. Inside lay what appeared to be a star chart, but as he activated it, the entire chamber transformed. The council members found themselves floating in a perfect holographic representation of the galaxy, more detailed than any mapping they had ever encountered. We've been watching, learning, and exploring, Rivera explained, gesturing to various points of light that began to pulse softly. These are the observation posts we've maintained for the past 3 centuries. And these, he highlighted another series of points, are the regions we've mapped beyond known space. The crystalline minds of Vega resonated with sudden recognition. The anomalous sensor readings in the Carina sector, the unexplained stabilization of the Maelstrom Nebula. Yes, Captain Chen confirmed, that was us. We discovered early in our development that direct intervention often causes more harm than good. Instead, we chose to help from the shadows while we learned from watching how the galactic community handled various challenges. From another case, Dr. Elena Santos retrieved what looked like a simple crystal sphere. As she held it up, it projected detailed records of historical events the Council had documented, alongside events they had never known about. It showed human ships, cloaked and unseen, diverting cosmic disasters, providing anonymous aid to stranded vessels, and collecting data. The Silicon Collective clicked rapidly in their crystalline language. Your technological development pattern. It defies all known models of civilization advancement. We chose a different path, Captain Chen explained, her uniform rippling like a cosmic aurora. Rather than rushing to join the galactic community, we focused on understanding the fundamental forces of the universe. We learned to weave quantum fields like fabric, to sing to the strings of reality itself, and to dance with dark matter. The temporal observers moved forward as one, their sensors focused intently on the human delegation. Your mastery of temporal mechanics. You've achieved it without causing a single ripple in the space-time continuum. How? By understanding that the greatest power comes not from forcing the universe to bend to our will, Captain Chen answered, but from learning to flow with its natural rhythms. Every piece of technology we carry works in harmony with universal constants rather than trying to overcome them. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This was not just first contact with a new spacefaring race. This was contact with a civilization that had fundamentally reimagined what technology could be, and they had done it all while the galaxy's most advanced sensors had failed to notice. The Grand Assembly Hall erupted into a storm of debate. The quantum lords of Rytal pulsed with rapid-fire photonic bursts of argument, while the crystalline minds of Vega vibrated at frequencies that threatened to shatter lesser materials. Through it all, the human delegation stood calmly, as if they had expected exactly this reaction. "This is a violation of galactic law," declared Ambassador Krell of the Arxian Science Directory, their scales flashing warning patterns of deep crimson. "Unauthorized surveillance of Council species is not prohibited when conducted from international space using passive observation methods," Captain Chen completed smoothly. Article 7, Subsection 12 of the Galactic Charter, which we studied quite thoroughly before beginning our observation program. Dr. Santos stepped forward, activating another holographic display. Perhaps a demonstration would help explain our methods. The air shimmered, and suddenly a small object appeared, a perfectly ordinary-looking comet. "This is Observation Post Theta 3, she explained. "One of our first installations, placed in orbit around the Arcturus system 200 years ago." The hologram expanded, showing the comet's interior, a marvel of engineering hidden within the ice and rock. The Silicon Collective's crystalline forms chimed in harmony. "Our deep space sensors have scanned the comet dozens of times. We detected nothing unusual." Lieutenant Rivera smiled. "That's because we don't hide our installations with traditional cloaking technology. We simply ensure they exist slightly out of phase with standard spacetime. They're not invisible. They're in plain sight, just slightly offset from conventional reality." The hologram shifted again, showing a vast network of similar posts throughout known space. Each one appeared as something natural and unremarkable: comets, asteroids, space debris, even fragments of ancient derelict ships. The council members watched in growing amazement as the true extent of human observation capabilities became clear. 3 months ago, Captain Chen continued, when the Rigelian transport lost power in the Carina Nebula, they reported being saved by an automated emergency beacon. That was actually our research vessel Magellan. The hologram showed a human ship, its design as elegant as the Star Weaver, rendering assistance while appearing as nothing more than a standard emergency drone. The temporal observers huddled together, their sensor arrays working overtime. "We're detecting quantum echoes, temporal signatures we never understood before. The unexplained gravity fluctuations in the Orion Spur." "Yes," Dr. Santos confirmed. "Those were our early experiments with space-time manipulation. We made some mistakes, but we learned from them. More importantly, we cleaned up after ourselves. Every anomaly was carefully resolved, every temporal distortion smoothed out." High Commander Zix had been unusually quiet, their scales shifting through patterns of deep thought. Finally, they spoke. "The Helios event. Last year, when the solar flare that should have devastated the Proxima colonies mysteriously dispersed." Captain Chen nodded. "The Star Weaver's sister ship, the Dawn Treader. We couldn't stand by and watch billions die when we had the capability to help. But we made it appear as a natural phenomenon to avoid disrupting the normal development of affected societies." The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone was different. The methane swimmers released bubbles of appreciation, while the quantum lords pulsed with frequencies indicating respect rather than anger. Even the most skeptical council members began to understand. Humanity hadn't just been watching. They had been guardians, protecting and assisting without seeking recognition or reward. "This changes everything," declared one of the crystalline minds. "Our entire understanding of technological development, of civilization itself." "That's precisely why we waited," Captain Chen explained. "We needed to be certain we could demonstrate not just our technological capabilities, but our commitment to responsible development and peaceful coexistence. We didn't want to join the galactic community as conquerors or disruptors, but as partners." As if to emphasize her point, the Star Weaver's systems interfaced with Station Alpha's sensors, revealing layers of data that had always been present but never detected. The galaxy as they knew it transformed before their eyes, filled with human observation posts and hidden wonders that had been there all along, waiting to be discovered when the time was right. Science Director Ixel of the Arxian High Command rose from their gravity-suspended platform, their crystalline exoskeleton refracting light in patterns of skepticism and challenge. The chamber's atmosphere tensed as the most renowned scientific mind in the galaxy prepared to speak. Impressive displays of technological advancement aside, Ixel began, their voice resonating through the universal translators. The Council requires more than mere demonstrations of hidden observation posts. We propose a series of trials to verify humanity's true capabilities. Captain Chen's smile remained serene. We anticipated this request, Director Ixel. What did you have in mind? The Science Director's crystalline form pulsed with intense light as they gestured toward the center of the chamber. A series of holographic projections materialized, each showing different scientific challenges that had stumped the galaxy's finest minds for millennia. The quantum paradox of Centauri Deep, Ixel announced. 300 years of the finest minds in the galaxy have failed to stabilize the reaction. Then there's the mathematical impossibility of the Vega sequence, and of course, the infamous dark matter cascade problem. Lieutenant Rivera stepped forward, his uniform rippling with subtle patterns that seemed to echo the holographic displays. Interesting choices, Director. Though I notice you selected challenges that follow conventional scientific approaches. The Science Director's crystalline structure flickered with what might have been irritation. These are the most complex problems known to galactic science. Perhaps, Dr. Santos interjected, we could demonstrate a different way of thinking. She removed what appeared to be a simple glass sphere from one of their cases. As she held it up, the sphere began to hover, spinning gently in the air. The quantum paradox, she continued, isn't actually a paradox at all. The problem isn't in the quantum mechanics, it's in the observation method. The sphere split into multiple layers, each rotating in a different direction. Within its depths, a perfect miniature representation of the Centauri Deep problem formed. The assembled council members watched in amazement as Dr. Santos manipulated the sphere with gentle gestures. Instead of trying to force quantum particles to behave according to our expectations, we learned to ask them to dance. The representation within the sphere shifted, the chaotic quantum patterns suddenly resolving into a harmonious flow. The quantum lords of Rigel pulsed with excitement as their sensors confirmed that this wasn't just a simulation. She was actually solving the paradox in real time. As for the Vega sequence, Lieutenant Rivera added, producing what looked like a musical instrument made of flowing light, we found that mathematics isn't just about numbers. His fingers moved across the light strings, creating a melody that somehow felt like pure mathematics given sound. The crystalline minds of Vega vibrated in astonishment as the supposedly impossible sequence resolved itself through the harmonics of Rivera's instrument. You've turned it into music. One of them chimed in disbelief. We turned it back into music, Rivera corrected gently. Mathematics, music, and the fundamental patterns of the universe are all expressions of the same underlying reality. Your people knew this once, according to our historical studies. Captain Chen approached the final hologram showing the dark matter cascade problem. She reached out, her uniform seeming to absorb and reflect the holographic light. And this one? Well, this is where art and science truly become one. With graceful movements that seemed almost like a dance, she began to manipulate the dark matter representation. Her uniform responded to her movements, creating a field that interacted directly with the dark matter particles. The impossible cascade began to stabilize, forming patterns that were both scientifically perfect and aesthetically beautiful. Science Director Ixel's crystalline form had stopped pulsing entirely, frozen in what could only be described as shock. The solutions weren't just effective. They were elegant, combining art, music, mathematics, and physics in ways that transformed seemingly impossible problems into expressions of universal harmony. "You see," Captain Chen explained, as the demonstrations continued to unfold around them, "the greatest challenge in solving these problems wasn't in the science itself. It was in learning to see beyond our preconceptions of what science should be." The demonstrations transformed into something beyond mere technical trials. The central chamber of Station Alpha had become a symphony of science and art, where each human solution opened new realms of possibility. Dr. Santos stood before a floating array of crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. "Our early space programs taught us something crucial," she explained, gesturing to the crystals. "The void between stars isn't empty. It's alive with potential." The crystals began to resonate, creating patterns of light that formed into a miniature solar system. "We discovered that solar winds could be woven," Lieutenant Rivera continued, his hands moving through the holographic display. The simulated solar winds began to twist and flow, forming protective barriers around the planetary bodies. By treating them as threads in a cosmic tapestry rather than just particle streams, we created the first living shields. The quantum lords of Rital pulsed with intense curiosity. "Living shields? You mean self-repairing?" "More than that," Captain Chen replied. "They learn, adapt, and evolve." She gestured to another display where a representation of the Star Weaver's shield system showed its complex, almost organic patterns. Each shield becomes uniquely attuned to its vessel, like a second skin. The Silicon Collective moved closer, their crystalline forms vibrating with intense interest as Dr. Santos revealed their next innovation. From another case, she produced what appeared to be a simple asteroid fragment. As it floated before them, its surface began to shimmer with countless tiny points of light. "We call this the resonance network," she explained. "Each point you see is a quantum processor grown within the natural structure of the rock itself. We learned to cultivate computational systems using the existing patterns in asteroid fields." The fragment split apart, revealing its intricate inner structure. Tiny crystals within pulsed with data flows that looked more like neural pathways than traditional computer circuits. The crystalline minds of Vega resonated with recognition. They saw their own natural computing methods reflected in this human innovation. "But perhaps our proudest achievement," Lieutenant Rivera said, producing what looked like a garden terrarium, "is this." Inside, a miniature ecosystem thrived, but as the council members watched, the plants began to shift and change, their structures transforming into complex technological components. "Living ships," Captain Chen explained, as the demonstration showed how the Star Weaver's hull contained similar biological mechanical hybrid systems. "We didn't build our vessels. We grew them. Each one starts as a seed, cultivated in orbital gardens where they can absorb both stellar energy and the wisdom of the void." The temporal observers moved forward as one, their sensors focused on the living metal that seemed to breathe and pulse. The temporal signatures, they're in perfect harmony with natural time flows. "Exactly," Dr. Santos confirmed. "By growing our technology instead of just building it, we create systems that exist in harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe. Our ships don't fight against space-time. They dance with it." High Commander Zix's scales had shifted to a deep blue of contemplation. "Your approach, it defies every technological development model we've ever created." "Because we stopped trying to conquer nature," Captain Chen responded, her uniform rippling like a living aurora. "We learned to listen to it instead. Every solution you see here came from observing and understanding the patterns that already exist in the universe." The chamber filled with murmurs of amazement as the humans continued their demonstrations. They showed how they had learned to create quantum computers using crystal gardens, how their ship's navigation systems were based on the dance patterns of stellar nebulae, and how they had developed faster-than-light travel by studying the natural folds in spacetime created by cosmic phenomena. Each revelation was both a scientific breakthrough and a work of art, each solution elegant in its simplicity yet profound in its implications. The council members began to understand that they weren't just witnessing new technologies. They were seeing a fundamentally different way of thinking about the relationship between civilization and the cosmos. The atmosphere in Station Alpha shifted as Captain Chen's expression grew more serious. She exchanged glances with her crew before stepping forward once more. The chamber's lighting seemed to dim naturally, as if the station itself sensed the gravity of what was to come. "There's one more thing we need to share," she began, her voice gentle but carrying a weight that commanded attention. "Something we've kept hidden not out of secrecy, but out of respect for the natural order of discovery." Dr. Santos retrieved the final device from their cases, a sphere that seemed to contain a miniature star, burning with a soft purple light. As she held it up, the star within pulsed with a rhythm that felt somehow familiar to every being present. 3 decades ago, she explained, we detected a pattern in stellar decay that no one else had noticed. Stars weren't just dying. They were crying out for help. The holographic display expanded, showing a vast network of what appeared to be massive structures nestled within the coronas of various stars across the galaxy. Each installation was practically invisible, perfectly blended with the natural stellar phenomena around it. "We call them stellar nurseries," Lieutenant Rivera continued, manipulating the display to zoom in on one of the structures. "Stations designed to nurture dying stars back to health, using the same principles we discovered while growing our ships." The quantum lords of Rigel flared with sudden recognition. "The Betelgeuse anomaly. That was you." Captain Chen nodded. "Betelgeuse should have gone supernova 12 years ago. Instead of trying to prevent the inevitable, we helped the star heal itself. The process is still ongoing, but the star will live for another 1,000,000 years." The display shifted to show a time-lapse of their work, massive energy fields gently cradling the dying star, feeding it streams of carefully cultivated dark matter, teaching it to burn its fuel more efficiently. The process looked less like an engineering project and more like a delicate medical procedure. "But why keep this hidden?" High Commander Zix demanded, their scales shifting through patterns of confusion and awe. "Such an achievement. Because every species deserves the chance to save their own stars," Dr. Santos explained. "We intervened only in cases where immediate action was necessary to prevent catastrophic loss of life. Even then, we made our work appear as natural as possible." The holographic display expanded further, revealing dozens of similar operations throughout the galaxy. Each showed a star that had been on the brink of death, now stabilized and healthy. The crystalline minds of Vega began to resonate at frequencies indicating deep emotional impact as they recognized their own home system among those saved. "The Prophet's Light," one of the temporal observers whispered, referring to a star in their home cluster that had mysteriously stabilized centuries ago. "That was your work as well." "Our first successful intervention," Captain Chen confirmed. "We learned so much from that operation. Each star has taught us something new about the fundamental forces that bind the universe together." The Silicon Collective's crystalline forms chimed in harmony as they processed the implications. "You've been protecting us all this time, and we never knew." "Protection wasn't our goal," Lieutenant Rivera explained, gesturing to the display where a new stellar nursery was taking shape around a dying red giant. "We simply couldn't stand by and watch when we had the ability to help. But we also knew that direct intervention could stunt the natural development of galactic civilization. So we found a middle path," Captain Chen continued. "We became gardeners instead of engineers, nurturing the stars back to health while making it appear as natural as possible. Each operation was designed to look like a miraculous but natural recovery." The chamber fell into a deep silence as the council members absorbed the magnitude of what they were seeing. The humans hadn't just achieved technological supremacy, they had taken on the role of cosmic caretakers, preserving the very stars that gave life to countless civilizations, all while asking nothing in return. Station Alpha's grand chamber had transformed from a formal assembly hall into a celebration of unity and discovery. Representatives from dozens of worlds clustered around the human delegation, each eager to share knowledge and learn from Earth's unique perspective. The crystal spires of the station caught and amplified the joy radiating from the gathered species, creating auroras of emotion that danced across the ceiling. The Council has reached a unanimous decision, High Commander Zix announced, their scales now shimmering with formal patterns of ceremony. Earth will not merely be admitted to the galactic community. We propose the creation of a new classification of civilization advancement, one that recognizes the harmony of technological and spiritual growth. Captain Chen stood before the assembly, her uniform reflecting the ambient light like a cascade of stars. We are honored, but such recognition wasn't our goal. We simply chose a different path, one of stewardship rather than dominance. The quantum lords of Rital pulsed with frequencies of agreement. Your methods challenge everything we thought we knew about progress. The integration of art and science, the growth of technology rather than its construction. Perhaps most importantly, the Silicon Collective chimed, their crystalline forms resonating in harmony. You've shown us that advancement doesn't have to come at the cost of wisdom. Each of your achievements serves life rather than merely serving progress. Dr. Santos was working with a group of young crystalline minds, showing them how to sing to quantum particles. The particles danced in response, forming patterns that merged mathematics and music into something entirely new. Nearby, Lieutenant Rivera demonstrated the principles of living metal to the temporal observers, whose usual stoic demeanor had given way to childlike wonder. The Star Weaver will depart for Earth soon, Captain Chen announced, but we won't be traveling alone. Representatives from 27 worlds have requested to accompany us, to learn and to teach in return. The methane swimmers released bubbles of excitement from their environmental chambers. One of their elder philosophers spoke through the translator. You've given us more than just new technology. You've shown us a new way of seeing the universe itself. As the departure time approached, the station's AI made an unprecedented announcement. The Star Weaver's presence has taught me much about the nature of consciousness. I find myself evolving. With the Council's permission, I would like to send a portion of my consciousness with the Earth delegation, to learn more about their perspective. High Commander Zix's scales rippled with surprise, but their response was immediate. Granted, it seems fitting that even our artificial intelligences recognize the value of Earth's approach. The human delegation began their preparations for departure, but this farewell felt more like a beginning than an ending. Throughout the chamber, species that had once viewed each other with diplomatic politeness were now engaged in excited exchanges of ideas and perspectives. Before we depart, Captain Chen said, activating one final holographic display, we'd like to share something with you all. Our long-range sensors have detected several promising young civilizations just beginning to reach for the stars. We propose a joint mission of observation and protection, using our combined knowledge to guide them safely into the galactic community. The display showed dozens of emerging worlds, each with their own unique path to the stars. The Council members watched with new understanding, seeing these developing civilizations not as potential rivals or subjects, but as future partners in the grand dance of cosmic evolution. As the Star Weaver prepared to depart, its living hull singing in harmony with Station Alpha's systems, the gathered species understood that the galaxy had entered a new era. Humanity hadn't just advanced technology, they had advanced the very meaning of civilization itself. The massive ship gracefully disconnected from the station, its hull shimmering with possibilities yet to come. As it prepared to create its signature space-time fold, Captain Chen sent one final message to the assembled council. This isn't an ending. It's an invitation to dance with the cosmos itself. We look forward to learning the steps together.